Awesome. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no problem, guys. Thanks for asking me.
Yeah, of course. So I'm just going to introduce you. So first of all, we'd like to thank you hugely for designating that time for us. I know it's kind of a weird time for everybody right now, but it gives us an opportunity to interview cool people like you and share that knowledge with everybody. So for people that don't know who Steph is, she is the owner and operator of the Dignified Dog. She is a certified dog trainer, graduated in 2013. She's also certified in pet first aid and with pretty much any pup of any breed of any age with any issue.
Yes, I am not breed racist.
Yeah. That's awesome. So Nick's going to start off with the first question that we have for you.
Number 1. All right. Do you have a favorite issue to work on? Sorry, and that's our dog coming up the stairs right now. He's interrupting.
No worries, I kicked mine out of the room. I don't think I have a favorite per se. I like working on impulse control. I think that one's really fun just because you really get to see a dog's gears turning in their head, trying to figure out what it is that you're asking of them. Yeah. And it also shows how smart dogs really are. I also really like to work on confidence building with dogs, the more insecure ones, just because I find it super rewarding when they gain that confidence, and it makes me feel good that I help make them a little more comfortable with what they're scared of.
Awesome. What do you think is the biggest misconception or understanding between owners and their pets?
Well, I think people complicate things with emotion, body language, as well as their tone. These are, of course, how dogs primarily communicate with each other, but I think humans honestly complicate all three of those things with each other. So we let our emotions get in the way, I think. For example, when we come home at the end of a bad day and all our dog wants to say hi, all our dog wants to do is say hi, but of course we get mad at them because we had a bad day. And then of course our poor dog is like, well, what did I do wrong? Or of course, if our dog is jumping all over us when we come home with groceries and we want them to calm down, but of course the way that we ask them to calm down, usually calm down, get down, get down, get down, usually hypes them up more. And then of course that gets them in trouble, which is a little unfair to them.
We basically realize what we're doing.
What's that?
So we're basically like sending them mixed messages and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, kind of. Just a lot of things that we ask for our dogs. We ask for one thing, but our tone and our energy and our body language kind of ask for something else. The dog knows when we're serious, when we're being silly, when we're mad. Dogs can pick up cancer. So trying to fool your dog with how you're feeling, with how you're really feeling, makes them act accordingly, of course, right? Usually when I would do training classes or even just private sessions with people, I tell them to check themselves before they wreck themselves, because of course if they're not feeling very good in the moment, then their dog isn't going to listen very well, and we want to set our dogs up for success when we're training them.
For sure. Oh, that's awesome.
Number 3, is positive reinforcement different for all dogs? So do some respond better to treats or touch or vocal affirmation?
Yeah, totally. Every dog is different, just like every person is. Some dogs will only want particular treats, whereas some dogs will do anything for any type of food as long as it's food. I like to use cheat treats when I am training dogs. So my cheat treats are super smelly treats. So I like to use those Zooks Mini Naturals as well as the Pet Kind type treats, just because the smell is there. And of course, dogs are all about their sense of smell. So I used to take those to classes with me. If someone's dog wouldn't react to their treats, they would usually take my treats, and then we could get some success out of them. However, with that being said, some dogs don't respond to food. They would rather a favorite toy, maybe a bum scratch or a belly rub, or even just verbal affirmation is good for them, like a good, yes, good dog is good for them. In terms of the walk even too, I think when dogs are on walks and they're pulling and stuff, outside is self-rewarding. So with a lot of dogs on the walk, I think just sniffing is rewarding. So basically we just want to make sure that our dogs are super into the reward that we're giving them, because we want to make training fun. If they're not into the reward that we're giving them, then training isn't going to be fun for them.
Right.
I worked with one dog. He was a Thai Ridgeback, and he really didn't care about anything. He didn't care about food. He didn't care about treats. He didn't care about petting or attention or toys or anything. So we had to problem solve with that one. And looking at his breed traits, Thai Ridgebacks were used to hunt, and he definitely liked to chase things whenever he was in the backyard. If people walked past the fence, he'd be going along the fence. So what we actually used for his reinforcement was a flirt pole, if you guys know what a flirt pole is.
Yes.
Yeah, so we actually kind of brought his prey drive into it, and then that way we were also able to teach him how to control his prey drive.
That's brilliant.
Training is a lot of problem solving.
Very
Yeah.
creative.
Very much. Well, obviously, like I'm sure for you, every client is different. Every dog is so different. Personality wise. Yeah, that's awesome. Question number 4. Since we're all staying from home a lot more often now, what are some things or activities that people can do with their pets to avoid cabin fever? And are there certain activities that people can do for different demographics of pets? So whether it's a super young puppy to a senior dog.
Well, for puppies, depending on the age of the puppy, you want to be careful with the amount of exercise that you give them, because you don't want to wreck their joints and stuff. Mm-hmm. Same, I guess, with older dogs as well too. If you have a frail dog that's kind of older, you don't want to push them too much because you don't want to break your dog. But with, honestly, I kind of wrote down a lot of stuff that's good for all dogs. So I did mention the flirt pole. That's a good one to get our dogs to burn off some energy inside. It also teaches impulse control for those dogs that like to chase squirrels and rabbits. For those of the people that will be watching that don't know what a flirt pole is, I have this. You can buy them online, but they are super expensive. I think they're like $80 in stores and stuff. But this thing cost me like $17 to make like 5 of them. I actually went to Home Depot and I got some PVC pipe, and I got some rope that has some give to it. If they do sell bungee cord, that's a better one because you want it to have some give. So I just tied off the ends, as you see, so that the rope doesn't kind of go through. And then usually I'll attach like a flimsy toy or the shell of a toy to the end of it and then get going with that.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Otherwise, what else do we have here? So pick some tricks to teach your dog. Of course, teaching your dog tricks and teaching your dog anything creates a bond. I have this book. Mm-hmm. And it has a lot of good stuff in it. It goes over fetch my slippers, fetch the remote, grab me a beer, open the fridge, stuff like that. I don't know. Depending on your dog, maybe don't teach them how to open the fridge. But I know everyone's seen the video going around the internet of the dog that has the buttons with the soundboard.
Yes.
That's probably a little difficult to recreate right now, but we can always, of course, teach our dogs the words and the actions to pair them with. Otherwise, I don't know how many have seen it on Instagram, but there's a trend going around Instagram where people like to tie a string between their cabinets and their kitchens, and they'll put food on the string. And then the dog has to figure out how to eat it off of the string. So with that said, on Instagram, I do follow a hashtag, and the hashtag is actually canine enrichment. So there's lots of good ideas in there. If anyone has Instagram and wants to check that out, you can go over that. Otherwise, there's this as well. This is a holy roller, and my girl loves this toy with the ball inside. But another thing that you can do with it is you can stuff treats in it that are bigger than the hole. So they have to try to figure out how to get that out. Otherwise, if you guys have an old towel around the house or an old shirt that you don't care about anymore, you can cut that up and roll some treats into the fabric and stuff it in the ball. And then that way your dog gets some mental stimulation out of that because they have to pull the fabric out. They also get to de-stuff a toy. Who doesn't love doing that? Otherwise, Ronnie and I like to play hide and seek. Hide and seek is a good one because I just hide treats. I put her outside so that she can count. And then I hide treats around the house or even her food. And I'll hide them in different rooms and I'll hide them at different heights. And then I let her inside and she has to spend time finding those. Usually it takes her about 15 or 20 minutes. And then even more time after that, after she's found everything, she does a little extra run around the house to make sure she didn't miss anything. Yeah. So that being said, basically just get your dog working for their food. And working for their food is, of course, taking the food bowl away and just doing all of these activities with our dogs. And then at least when we come out of quarantine, our vets won't get mad at us for making our dogs fat treats all the time. Because we know that that's an issue with everything as well.
Very much so.
And then another thing that you can do to refresh your obedience at home. If you have a dog that's kind of rusty with his cues, like most people I find are, it's difficult to teach stay and it's difficult to teach down, I think, as well as recall sometimes, depending on your dog. Yeah. So take some time as well to work on your dog's obedience cues, especially recall and thresholds. I know when the world is actually normal, we see so many posts about dogs who go missing, dogs who get out of their yards, dogs who get out of the house.
Yeah.
So I feel like if we get our dogs having a solid recall as well as how to respect thresholds, I think when the world goes back to normal, we can hopefully reduce the amount of dogs that run away.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Work on your recall.
That's an awesome list of resources and ideas that you made. Yeah, like super easy to do. And it just depends on, like how much time you're able to commit to them.
Oh, actually, another thing to add too, if you have a working dog, particularly huskies, shepherds, dogs like that, if you want a backpack for them, that's another thing you can do while we're actually still allowed outside.
Yeah.
Put your dog's backpack on when you go for a walk, or if you have a wagon or a sled, take the kids along, put them on the wagon or the sled and have your dog pull them. Then at least our dog has a sense of working, and then they get mental stimulation as well as their physical exercise.
Yeah, that's an awesome way to include the family.
Yes.
Number 5, what are some changes you'll be making to how you run your business that will enable you to still reach your clients? So while COVID's happening.
Yeah, well, it's kind of sort of new to me, but I'll have to figure out how to organize an online classroom for everybody. It doesn't seem really hard because I have done classes before. So it's basically just running the class, except there's no one in the room with you. In terms of clients that are taking private sessions, I can either do FaceTime sessions or we can do Zoom like we're doing right now. Everything will have to be done with the cameras on our phones. So in terms of homework, that'll be assigned by asking clients to film themselves doing what's required, and then sending me back their homework so that I can give them some feedback on that. Consults, of course, will have to be done over the phone. We probably do lessons over the phone as well too. I just like visual stuff. But I actually did sign up for a dog-specific business course, so that's helping me with a lot of this right now too.
That's awesome. Do you think it is a good time to work on loose leash walking with your pup? Because we do have so much time on our hands, and it kind of doubles, helps us having to practice social distancing with everyone if they are outside. And how long should those sessions be?
This is another long-winded question.
There was lots of questions in there too.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, first of all, hopefully people are getting outside, because staying cooped up, of course, gives us cabin fever. So while we are still able to get outside, get some fresh air, help your brain. But I think now is definitely a perfect time to work on loose leash walking. Practice safe distancing, of course. But this type of scenario that we're in right now is really good for people who also have reactive dogs. Yes. I saw that you guys did a post the other day with your guy who's leash reactive. And he was doing really well, by the way.
Thank you.
But yeah, of course, people aren't technically allowed to come and approach us now. So it's definitely really good to practice loose leash walking with reactive dogs as well as just any dog. But one thing that you want to do is practice engagement with your dogs. Because of course, if our dogs are pulling on leash, or if our dogs are, and not always, but they're disconnected from us. So of course, they're not engaging with us. So if you're practicing engagement, your dog is more likely to be successful because of course they're paying attention to you. So engagement through play is something that I teach all of my clients. We do treat play, which of course is using movement with the food. Just asking our dog for a sit in front of us and giving them food is okay, but it's just not really fun for them. It's kind of mind numbing. So at least if you have the food in movement, whereas even if you have it in your hand and you're just moving it around, having them chase it, as well as tossing the food a little bit away from you, it makes it more fun for them. There's also toy play. So toy play is another, of course, if you have a dog that isn't really into treats as soon as you go outside, because outside is more fun, take a treat with you, preferably a squeaky toy, because of course that brings the attention back, as well as personal play. If you have a dog that loves to just be around everyone and everyone else except for you, personal play is a good one to engage them a little bit, because then it makes you fun. Outside is self-rewarding for a dog. So we want to make sure that we're more interesting than what's outside and what's going on outside. Training session length honestly depends on how long your walk is. It depends on everyone, of course. Opinions will vary, but I like to say practice it for the whole walk, or at least the first half of the walk, because usually the first half of the walk is where the dog is like, whoa, we're outside, I gotta pee, I gotta poo, I gotta sniff.
Yeah.
So at least if you have their attention right off the get-go, then you're more likely to have their attention for the whole walk. Of course, if your dog has a short attention span, then kind of cater to that so that you can set your dog up for success. Another thing that I teach my clients is a fun walk versus a structured walk. So a fun walk is basically just, we can goof off, we can sniff this, we can sniff that, we can pee here, we can pee there, have at her. Whereas a structured walk is training time. And regardless of how long a structured walk is, usually I find it tires the dog out more, because they're actually focusing on using their brain instead of just kind of thing.
Yeah.
Another thing to practice, of course, is recall on your walk. Have your dog come back to you, as well as look at you and focus on you. Give them a treat and then release them to keep walking again. This is a good one for leash reactive dogs, because of course we have to be able to regain their focus. So if they have a good recall as well as a good focus, we can get that back.
Great. We know that you are obviously a strong supporter in positive reinforcement training. Can you expand a little on your training methods and kind of like the philosophy that you believe in and use?
Yeah, well, I mean, of course, you can't force the dog to do anything. You can't force people to do anything either. It's just unfair. And expectations are way, way, way too high. I set dogs as well as their owners up to succeed by finding their comfort level and going from there. A huge part of all of my training programs are based on positive reinforcement, as well as teaching owners and dogs to learn how to cope with a realistic level of stress. Life is always going to have stress. Like our children, dogs need to learn to cope with small challenges and stressors to be able to be confident, happy, and live a fulfilling life. So basically with me, it's just all about setting your dog up for success, making sure they're comfortable. If they aren't comfortable, then of course we'll go from there.
That's really cool. Go ahead.
Number 8, are there any types of cases you refer out ever?
It's not very often, but I have. If I feel like a dog needs more than what I can provide to them. I've only been a dog trainer for 6 years, so of course, amongst the vast knowledge that's out there, I only know so much. As much as people tell me that I know a ton, I know very little. I mean, I know a lot, but you know what I mean.
For sure, absolutely.
But yeah, depending on what type of issue the dog has, or depending on what their needs are. Like, of course, if someone comes to me and they want agility, I don't do that. So I'll find a trainer that I think is good, and I'll refer them to them. Or honestly, like, I have my mentor who is excellent. Her name's Erin, as well as I have a couple of trainer friends as well too. So if I think that maybe my knowledge only goes up to a point, then I'll either ask them for help, ask them for suggestions, or I'll just tell the client to contact them because they can do a little bit better.
And then last question. This is a question from an Instagram comment. What are some tips to prevent unwanted barking? So I know that's a little vague. I mean, kind of like Coda at home in the window, if someone's knocking at the door, or even reactive kind of barks when you're walking.
So I feel like a lot of people don't know this, but there are actually various different reasons why dogs bark. So you'll have to figure out the root of why your dog is barking first before you can address it. Some dogs bark when they are playing because they're excited. That's my dog. Some dogs bark out of fear, or of course there's territorial barking, there's boredom barking, as well as learned barking. In these cases, it sounds like it's territorial barking. So with that, you need to restrict access to those things first. Dogs being dogs, of course, will bark. They're dogs, that's just what they do. However, when it gets to a point that it is excessive, of course, it's annoying. If your dog, for example, likes to bark at the window, you will go over and interrupt your dog. You can either say their name or you can say, hey, anything that will kind of get their attention away. And then you'll ask them to follow you, if they will. If they won't follow you, use spatial pressure with your body to get in between them and the thing that they're barking at. And then you'll want to redirect them to something that you want them to do instead. One thing that I usually like is I like to send my dog to go lie down on her bed. So as soon as your dog goes and lies down on their bed, then make sure that you give them a super high value reward. If you have a dog that likes to eat a treat and then run back to the window to bark again, make sure that you provide a treat that takes a little bit more time to eat, as well as making sure that you have a decent amount of time in between the thing and the redirection, because you want to make sure that you're not rewarding your dog still for a sequence, if that makes sense. So give your dog something like a sweet potato chew or something like that that will take a little bit more time for them to eat, so that they kind of forget that they were barking at something out the window.
Right.
If they're barking while walking, like kind of a reactive dog, you want to, of course, determine what they're reactive to and why. And then you actually want to determine a behavioral threshold for your dog. So a behavioral threshold, for the people that don't know training jargon, is basically just finding a comfort level for your dog. So if your dog is barking at someone 10 feet away, but they won't bark at someone or something 15, 20 feet away, then you want to make sure that you're going that further length away so that they feel safe and comfortable and that they're able to actually listen to you. And then work on your focus cue, work on your recall cue, and then work on engagement as well. These are, of course, just quick tips. There's way more to it.
Of course. No, yeah, and that's the thing. I'm sure you could seriously spend hours explaining everything.
Yeah.
But no, we definitely appreciate you spending the time with us, and going over some questions briefly for our followers. We definitely hope that we get to work with you in the future, and I know that we will. It's just hopefully this crazy time kind of passes quickly.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, you'll probably see me in one of the walks and wags classes because I have to update mine pretty soon. So.
Oh, awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
No, that's beautiful. But no, we'll definitely contact you if we have any more questions.
For sure.
Yeah, we'll definitely keep in touch. But thank you again, Steph.
No problem, guys. Thank you so much.
Take care.
See you.
You too.